Chosen one, what if the very thing you feared was already handled, and heaven's been waiting on you to receive? Stop worrying, heaven has your back. You've walked through seasons of grinding and hustle, convinced that your future depended on your next move, your next sale, your next big break. They whispered that you'd have to earn every blessing, that lack was your test, that fear would keep you safe. But in the quiet corners of your heart, you've sensed something else. A shift in the air, a soft nudge that all your resources are already in motion. Tonight, you'll discover that God's provision isn't a distant promise but a present reality. You are entering a season where lack and striving give way to trust and alignment. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Get ready to step into the truth that your victory is already paid for. God's funding is active now. You've known the sting of worry when the bills pile up, the anxiety that creeps in when the rent is due, and the gnawing fear that you'll never catch up no matter how hard you push. You've stared at your empty bank account and wondered if you'd ever see abundance again. You've laid awake at night, mind racing through worst-case scenarios, convinced that every phone call you missed was another missed opportunity. You're not alone in this exhaustion of spirit and bone. Countless chosen ones have walked the path of lack, wondering if divine promises were only empty echoes. But tonight, you'll discover that what you've perceived as empty hands were simply the stage for a supernatural supply that's already been released. The moment for waiting is over. Divine funding is active in your life right now, whether you see it, feel it, or believe it. For years, you may have equated faith with frugality, inwardly convinced that the more you squeezed your budget and tightened your belt, the more room you'd make for provision, only to discover that stress ate away at every blessing. You've known the heartbreaking shame of turning down invitations because you couldn't afford the fare, the frustration of skipping medical care due to lack of funds, and the silent ache of knowing dreams were stalling for want of resources. Those moments of rejection, when banks declined your applications and friends offered platitudes instead of help, left you feeling abandoned in a world that thrives on abundance. Yet every pang of lack carved within you a deeper longing for a provision that transcends your own striving and hustle, a provision that's already been scripted into your destiny. Then came the revelation that transformed your perspective. Your poverty was never the end of your story, but the backdrop for a divine miracle. In the often overlooked account of Elisha and the hungry 100 men, 2 Kings 4 verses 42 to 44, a small offering of 20 loaves of barley and fresh grain in the ear multiplied until everyone ate and had leftovers, proof that God's supply multiplies beyond natural measure. Like those men at Gilgal, you are standing on a field of potential miracles, holding in your hands what seems insufficient, only to watch abundance overflow. This turning point reframes your lack not as a verdict on your worth, but as the soil for a harvest so plentiful that every measure you think you have will expand into unimaginable supply. As you embrace this truth, you'll begin to notice signs of transformation emerging in your daily walk. You might see small checks in the mail when you least expect them, refunds or reimbursements that arrive as if by divine courier. Perhaps an unexpected invitation to partner on a project lands in your inbox, gifting you with new streams of income and influence. You may find that a long-stalled idea for a side gig becomes crystal clear, guiding you to steps that generate revenue and joy. Even your relationships shift. A mentor steps forward with strategic advice that propels you into new markets, or a friend connects you to someone who opens doors you thought permanently closed. These are not coincidences but unmistakable markers that divine timing is aligning every detail of your life toward overflow. Behind these outward shifts lie unseen spiritual forces working tirelessly on your behalf. Every prayer you've whispered in the dark, every act of faith you've performed in secret, has activated heavenly resources to clear your path. When you gave sacrificially of your time, talents, or tithe, you sowed seeds into a soil rich with promise. Each moment you chose trust over demand, you unlocked channels of blessing that move faster than any human transaction. Synchronicities, chance meetings, timely offers, ideas downloaded in moments of silence, are the fingerprints of divine intervention. They remind you that your struggle was never a test of endurance, but a setup for elevation, and that faith, more than grit, is the catalyst for true abundance. At this critical crossroads, awareness of these signs is only half the victory. you must decide to step into the reality of active provision. Many falter here, resisting the promise because scarcity feels safer than the unknown waters of supernatural supply. They cling to old mindsets that equate faith with frugality, afraid that releasing fear will leave them vulnerable to disappointment. Yet true alignment demands not just seeing miracles at work, but embracing them fully, retraining your mind to expect abundance, your heart to receive favor, and your hands to steward resources with gratitude. This is your sacred invitation to choose faith over fear, declaring that God's funding is active now, and letting that declaration reshape every corner of your life. Feel the surge of empowerment as you take your next steps in trust and obedience. Begin each morning with a declaration of provision. Speak aloud the promise that your needs are met according to divine riches. When an expense arises, affirm that supply flows from unseen rivers of grace, not from a dwindling paycheck. Offer the first fruits of every gain, whether small or large, to honor the provision you've received, trusting that generosity multiplies your increase. Surround yourself with testimonies of those who have walked this path before you, drawing inspiration from their stories of overflow. Each intentional act of belief and stewardship cements your partnership with heaven's economy, ensuring that provision moves through you and multiplies. As you commit to living in the confidence of divine funding, watch how every area of lack transforms into an arena of abundance. Financial walls will crumble, relationships will deepen with favor, creativity will surge with fresh ideas, and health will be restored through peace that passes understanding. You will move forward without fear, knowing that every resource you need is already in motion. Comment active if you declare that God's funding is at work in your life today, and prepare to step into a season where lack is no longer your story, but the prelude to a miraculous harvest. And a special thanks to our current members whose faith fuels this mission. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. You're being positioned, not punished. You felt the sting of every disappointment, each closed door echoing in your mind like a verdict of rejection. You waited for opportunities that never arrived, rehearsed your pitches to audiences that never listened, and invested your time in relationships that seemed to fizzle just when you thought they would flourish. In those dark seasons, frustration became your constant companion, whispering that you'd been forsaken, that perhaps your purpose was a mirage. You're not alone in this painful journey. Countless chosen ones have stood where you stand now, hearts heavy with the weight of not yet. But tonight, you'll discover that those delays were never punishments, but divine strategic moves positioning you for your highest calling. The frustration you've carried is proof that something greater is being woven behind the scenes. Your struggles have felt deeply personal. You remember nights spent scrolling through messages and invitations you never received, and mornings awakening to the same stark reality of inaction. You poured your heart into projects and watched them sputter out, convinced that you weren't favored enough to succeed. You felt the quiet shame of knowing the path ahead was thick with obstacles, each rejection sending you back to square one. Yet each no carried an emotional weight that left you questioning your worth, and every attendance at closed doors hardened your spirit, tempting you to settle or give up. That pain, those doubts, and that sense of invisibility have all contributed to an inner resilience you could not have discovered through smooth sailing alone. Then, in a moment of clarity, you understood that your waiting had purpose, that every detour was charting a course toward the very arenas where your gifts would shine most brightly. In the story of Nehemiah, a cupbearer burdened by the walls of Jerusalem's ruin found his heart restless until he took action, trusting God to open doors for him before he even knew how they would move. Nehemiah 1 verses 3 to 11. His divine appointment was not granted by earthly credentials, but by God's strategic positioning. In your own life, each postponed answer, each delay, and each door that refused to budge has quietly ushered you into preparation. The skills you honed in obscurity, patient perseverance, creative problem-solving, deep empathy, have readied you to lead when your time finally comes. As you embrace this revelation, you'll begin to notice subtle signs that your positioning is unfolding. The relationships that felt stagnant suddenly take a turn as former colleagues reach out with fresh opportunities. The resources you once chased after now come seeking you. For instance, a chance conversation at a coffee shop leads to an introduction that changes everything. You might experience a burst of inspiration about a project you set aside months ago, only to realize that the insight you now have could never have been gained earlier. Even your personal growth during these trials, your capacity for empathy, your sharpened discernment, your deepening faith, becomes the evidence that the stage is set, the lights are warming, and your entrance is imminent. These are not random occurrences but unmistakable markers that divine timing is at work, aligning every thread of your story into a tapestry of purpose. Behind these emerging signs, unseen spiritual forces have been orchestrating your ascent. Each closed door served to shield you from premature exposure, protecting you from audiences unprepared for your message. Every season of not yet granted you time to refine your character, to deepen your understanding of yourself and others, and to develop strategies that would ensure lasting impact. Synchronicities, like the mentor who appears just as you need guidance, or a sudden influx of resources, are the handiwork of divine allies clearing obstacles out of your way. Your faith in the midst of delay has been the signal flare that activated these unseen interventions, confirming that your calling is not only real but rapidly approaching its moment of manifestation. At this critical crossroads, mere awareness of these divine maneuvers is insufficient. You must decide to step into the reality of your positioning. Many falter here, discouraged by the temptation to see every delay as rejection rather than redirection. They cling to excuses for why they've been held back, allowing bitterness to take root when they should be sowing seeds of faith. Yet true alignment requires more than recognizing God's strategy. It demands courageous action in spite of fear. This is your sacred invitation to reject the lies of punishment and to declare aloud, "I am positioned for purpose." It is your choice whether to linger in the shadows of delay or to stride confidently into the light of divine timing. Feel the surge of empowerment that courses through your spirit as you claim this truth. Begin by reframing your language. Speak of closed doors as divine detours, of delays as strategic pauses, and of waiting seasons as training grounds. Then, take practical steps. Revisit projects with fresh eyes, network with new intention, and release unrealistic timelines in favor of patient trust. Surround yourself with voices that affirm your calling and remind you of your worth. Each act of faith in this moment strengthens the momentum toward your appointed season, ensuring that when destiny calls, you will answer with confidence rather than hesitation. As you step boldly into your divine positioning, watch how every element of your life shifts to support your purpose. Your message will resonate with those who need it most, opportunities will align with your freshly honed skills, and resources will flow at precisely the right times. The frustration of delays will fade into the background, replaced by the exhilaration of knowing you are exactly where you need to be. Comment "positioned" if you trust that your wait has not been punishment but preparation, and prepare to walk into the season God has been orchestrating for you, with impact that echoes far beyond your own horizon. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. Provision flows beyond money. You've carried the weight of financial uncertainty as though it were the only measure of your worth and security. You've watched bank statements with bated breath, prayed over dwindling balances, and felt the shame that arises when you can't contribute to gatherings or help a friend in need. Yet every time you equated provision with a paycheck, you missed the broader landscape of abundance God had prepared for you. You are not alone in this limited view. Many chosen ones have stood where you stand now, convinced that money defines provision. But tonight, you will discover that divine supply flows through every area of your life. Healing for your body, clarity for your mind, favor in your relationships, and sparks of creativity in your spirit. For too long, you have felt trapped in a narrow corridor of need, believing that only a larger bank balance could unlock the doors to freedom and joy. You remember the panic that gripped you when a bill arrived unexpectedly, the bitterness of watching friends succeed while you remain stagnant, and the frustration of having ideas that could change lives but lacking the resources to act. Those moments left you questioning your purpose, wondering if God had abandoned you in your season of lack. You buried your vision under the weight of insufficient funds, allowing doubt to eclipse the promise of destiny. This emotional burden was real. Shame, fear, and the gnawing pinch of scarcity became constant companions. Yet every pang of need carved within you a deeper yearning for a God whose provision knows no limits. Then came the revelation that broke the chains of monetary confinement. Provision is not bound to dollar signs, but to the character of your God and the breadth of his promise. In the lesser-known account of Obadiah, a faithful prophet hid 100 prophets in caves and fed them with God's miraculous supply, ensuring they lacked nothing despite famine. 1 Kings 18 verse 4. Their needs were met not by earthly wealth, but by heavenly provision flowing through the obedience and trust of a hidden servant. In that example, you see a mirror of your own life. Your hidden prayers, your secret acts of faith, and your willingness to trust without visible supply have been compelling the heavens to move. This turning point reframes every empty wallet and stalled project not as evidence of abandonment, but as the prelude to a supernatural supply that runs deeper than any bank account. As you embrace this truth, you begin to notice signs of transformation rippling through your everyday experiences. When you face an unexpected medical bill, a discounted treatment or a free medical service appears right when you need it. When you contemplate a project but lack funds, a mentor offers guidance that unlocks a revenue-generating strategy you hadn't considered. In the midst of relational drought, a simple conversation brings healing words that restore broken bonds. Even your creative wellspring, long parched by fear of criticism, overflows with new ideas as you surrender your work to divine inspiration. These moments are not coincidences but unmistakable markers that provision in your life is expanding beyond money to encompass every facet of your being. Watch for these patterns. They confirm that divine timing is knitting your restoration into every area of your life. Behind these visible shifts, unseen spiritual forces are laboring to elevate your reality. Every prayer you whispered for financial relief, every seed of generosity you planted in lean times, has activated a network of grace preparing to deliver favor in multiple forms. Your sacrifices, be they time, energy, or resources, became investments in a divine economy where repayment comes in unexpected currencies. Inner peace to quell anxiety, renewed health to bolster your stamina, and divine connections to guide your path. Consider the story of Jacob's vow at Bethel, Genesis 28 verses 20 to 22. Where he promised a tithe of all he received in exchange for God's protection and provision. The promise he made in faith became the catalyst for a lifetime of blessings that transcended material gain, infusing every relationship and venture with divine favor. Your own vows, spoken in the quiet of your heart, are forging a similar supply chain of grace. At this moment, merely recognizing these spiritual movements is not enough. You must decide to step into the full reality of overflow. Many resist this shift, fearing that a broader definition of provision will overwhelm them or that accepting more than money is too intangible to grasp. They cling to the illusion that money alone measures success and security, refusing to see healing, creativity, and divine friendship as equally vital forms of supply. Yet true alignment demands that you open your hands not only to coins but to every gift heaven offers. An inspired idea, a timely word of encouragement, or a sudden breakthrough in health. This is your sacred invitation to release the prison of narrow vision and embrace the vast horizon of divine provision. Feel the surge of empowerment that swells within you when you declare, "Provision flows beyond money in my life." Let this affirmation become your daily anchor. Speak it before every meal. Whisper it when you open your eyes at dawn, and proclaim it in moments of doubt. Act on this truth by seeking resources in every dimension. Invest in your health through rest and nutrition, cultivate your creativity through regular practice, and nurture your relationships through generous listening and kindness. Treat every need that arises, physical, emotional, spiritual, as an altar for divine overflow, trusting that supply will manifest in ways you cannot predict. Each intentional step of faith cements your partnership with a God whose hands are never empty. As you fully embrace provision in its broadest sense, You will move forward with confidence that every lack is temporary and every need is an opportunity for divine encounter. Your health will restore, creative ideas will lead to impactful work, relationships will flourish under the influence of heavenly favor, and your financial story will become part of a larger tapestry of blessing. No longer will you measure your progress solely by your bank balance. You will witness the ecosystem of abundance in every corner of your life. Comment overflow if you welcome provision in all its forms, and prepare to step into a season where financial wealth is just one dimension of the miraculous supply that sustains you on your journey. You are entrusted to multiply impact. You may have spent seasons clutching every blessing close to your chest, convinced that if you gave away even a sliver of what you received, you'd risk losing your hard-won breakthroughs. You watched your breakthroughs like precious gold, reluctant to share insight, favor, or resources because scarcity whispered that you must guard your edge at all costs. Yet this season you're stepping into is not about hoarding light, but about igniting it in countless others. You are being entrusted with heavenly abundance not to elevate yourself alone, but to spark transformation across communities and generations. Tonight, you'll discover that divine funding is missional, a force designed to flow through you and expand exponentially. You are not alone in this calling. Legions of chosen ones have carried this weight and learned that true legacy is measured by impact, not accumulation. For years, you may have wrestled with the tension between stewardship and selfishness, feeling guilty whenever you sensed a prompting to give yet fearing that generosity would leave you empty. You remember the pang in your spirit when you considered mentoring someone less experienced, only to silence that call with thoughts of your own needs. You felt the shame of refusing to lend an ear or a hand because you lacked time, energy, or resources, only to watch your heart grow heavy with regret each time. Perhaps you declined speaking opportunities at your local church or community group, rationalizing that you weren't ready or that your story wasn't compelling enough. Those moments of withholding love and wisdom have carved deep scars of regret, leaving you to wonder if you were meant for something more than self-preservation. Yet that very struggle has prepared you for a moment of divine commissioning, to multiply impact far beyond what you ever imagined possible. In 1 Chronicles 29 verse 14, David reminds the people of Israel that both riches and honor come from you, and you rule over all. In your hand are power and might, and in your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all. This lesser-known passage reveals that God's abundance is meant to flow through willing vessels, empowering not only the receiver but those around them. When you embrace that every gift you hold is ultimately from God, you shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of stewardship. The moment you recognize this truth, your posture changed. Your resources became tools to build others up, and your influence transformed from a solitary spotlight into a catalyst for collective elevation. As you step into this new identity, you'll begin noticing unmistakable signs of transformation in your daily life. Invitations to speak, teach, or mentor will surface in unexpected ways. A neighbor will ask for prayer guidance just as you sensed a need to minister. A colleague will seek your insight on a project that aligns with your expertise, or a local organization will reach out to you to lead a workshop. You may find that funds you once guarded are now flowing through your hands to a charitable cause, yielding fruit in the smiles and relief of those you serve. Creative ideas you tucked away will blossom into initiatives that unite strangers around shared hopes. These are not mere coincidences, but divine signposts confirming that your overflow is meant to cascade outward. Each open door is a reminder that your role is not to accumulate glory, but to distribute grace. As you commit to this path of multiplication, watch how every aspect of your life aligns with the rhythm of divine provision. Doors will continue to open not just for your own success, but for collective breakthroughs. Your influence will expand as lives are touched through your willingness to share. Communities once mired in need will find revival through the overflow you steward. You will discover that legacy is not built on what you keep, but on what you give away. Comment legacy if you accept your role as a steward of heaven's abundance, and prepare to live into a season where provision is your servant, moving through you to change the world, one life at a time. Stop striving, start stewarding. You've poured every ounce of effort into chasing breakthroughs, believing that your hustle alone would open every door. You've stayed up late, skipped rest, and fasted on empty fuel, convinced that success belonged to the most exhausted. You've watched peers seemingly coast to victory and wondered why your sweat felt like a tax on your soul. In those moments, you may have blamed yourself for not trying hard enough, questioning whether your faith was strong enough to carry you through. You're not alone in this grind. Countless chosen ones have felt trapped by the myth that provision is earned through relentless striving. Tonight, you will discover that God's favor and funding were never locked behind your performance, but released in response to your obedience and faith. It's time to shift from endless striving to devoted stewardship, a transformation that will align you with divine economy and usher in effortless living. For too long, you've measured your worth by the length of your to-do list and the sweat of your brow rather than the posture of your heart. You've chased deadlines with trembling hands, scrambled for every opportunity, and pressed through exhaustion because you feared giving less than your all would mean receiving less from the one who calls you. That fear whispered lies, that if you paused to pray or simply rest, the window of blessing would slam shut. Those lies left you burnt out, questioning if rest was a luxury you could never afford. You felt the weight of spiritual and physical fatigue as if every moment of respite was a gamble you couldn't take. Yet in that struggle, God was teaching you a deeper lesson. Provision flows through alignment, not agitation. Then came a moment of astonishing clarity, a revelation that your striving had become a barrier rather than a bridge to abundance. In the lesser-known account of Micaiah son of Imlah, 1 Kings 22 verses 8 to 28, he stood in the king's court, refusing to echo the frantic chorus of false prophets and instead spoke truth, risking his life in obedience. His courage to stand still and speak from divine alignment shifted the course of history. In your own life, every time you pause to seek God, rather than charging ahead on your own strength, you open the door to supernatural strategy. This turning point reframed your weariness not as failure but as the invitation to steward the resources already flowing to you. You saw that obedience and faith, not frantic effort, unlock the floodgates of provision. As you embraced this new paradigm, subtle signs of transformation began to emerge in your world. You noticed that when you chose prayer over panic, solutions crystallized in your mind, clear next steps appearing like lamplight in a dark room. When you prioritized rest embedded with worship, your body recovered and your spirit soared, fueling fresh creativity for tasks that once felt impossible. You discovered that saying no to unnecessary commitments freed time and energy for projects aligned with your calling, leading to breakthroughs rather than burnout. Friendships deepened when you listened rather than hustled, revealing mentors and allies who offered guidance beyond anything you could conjure alone. These shifts were not random. They were the unmistakable markers of divine timing, proving that stewardship of rest, prayer, and intentional choices aligns you with a higher flow of provision. Behind these visible shifts, unseen spiritual forces have been arranging every detail of your path. Your willingness to release control activated a deeper anointing that orchestrates circumstances in your favor. When you declared, "Not my will but yours," heavenly strategies unfolded. A canceled meeting gave you time to prepare. A delayed payment set you on course for double provision, and a moment of silence in your schedule ushered in an unexpected word of encouragement over the phone. Each divine intervention confirmed that your struggles were not tests to overcome through grit alone, but setups for elevation through grace. Synchronicities, chance encounters, timely resources, and sudden insights are the heavenly echo of your faith-fueled obedience. At this pivotal moment, awareness of these divine movements is only half the equation. You must choose to fully accept and embody stewardship over striving. Many wrestle here, fearful that releasing frantic effort means becoming passive or losing momentum. They cling to the lie that hustle is the hallmark of success, resisting the call to trust provision that flows through rest and alignment. Yet true transformation demands more than seeing miracles at work. It requires embodying the principle of stewardship, managing what God has poured into your life with wisdom, generosity, and vision. You've already won. Your breakthrough is in motion. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members. Your faith sustains every word. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Remember, provision is not a prize for effort. It's a gift of grace. You are chosen, covered, and forever funded.